Hello everyone and welcome. In recent years there's been a larger demand for crisp execution and efficient gameplay. Most often than not, every player strives to become the best, regardless of their skill or talents. With such great pressure comes great problems. New tech and setups crafted on a daily basis. How can one surely keep up? Luckily, with a variety of input devices and resources online, it's become much easier to perform at a higher skill level than it was in the past. But there is some difficulty finding archives that tailor to your specific needs. In my case, as a keyboard player, there is hardship in finding resources online to aid and assist. My hopes are to catalog some of these problems so that the next player doesn't struggle in the same way that I do.
There is no victory without daily training.
Key bindings and annotations will be shown on the screen. In this case, we'll be dealing with 3 movement options that I've used as a player in Tekken 7. Tekken 7 being the latest iteration in the Tekken series as of now 2018. Great game overall. Lots to learn, very few tutorials within the game, and by very few I mean absolutely none. So, moving along. In this case we'll be looking at Nina's Hayashida step, Lei's Ha step, and Dragunov's Snake Dash. Both of these 3 abilities are very good movement based options that will teach you the basics of cancelling certain abilities into side steps. In the case of Nina's Hayashida step, founded by the Japanese player Hayashida, it's a matter of cancelling Nina's back sway with a side step to the left, or a side step to the right if you're on the player 2 side. In other words, you're stepping into the background if you want to simplify the explanation. Secondly, we'll be dealing with Lei's Ha step, a staple in the Lei arsenal for as long as I can remember. It is a matter of cancelling Lei's back turn stance into a back dash. There are very different ways in doing this, some more complicated than others, but generally speaking, it is a very good move. Reason being, Lei covers a lot of distance going backwards, meaning if there are people trying to aggress against you, you are able to create large amounts of space, recollect, and then form a strategy as to how you are going to defend against the aggressor. And thirdly, we'll be looking at Dragunov's Snake Dash. In this case, similar to the Hayashida step, you are cancelling Dragunov's forward sway movement into a side step. But depending on the speed you do it, if you cancel the forward sway motion quickly, you lose most of the high crash properties, but your side step rate increases dramatically. And if you then cancel the forward sway slower, you retain some of the high crash moves, but your lateral movement will decrease as you are allowing Dragunov to animate his forward sway motion. All 3 techniques I have used in battle. All 3 techniques to some degree have been successful, and definitely something I feel like you have to learn if you are using any of those 3 characters. Moving on to the live section of the video, where I'll get to show you the inputs as they are done on screen. As stated during the intro, the annotations and the key bindings have been shown. In this case, I'm using W, S, A, and D as my D-pad, and I'm using 6, T, Y, and U as my left analog stick. So those will be both of my movement options alongside my attack buttons. So in this case, when executing the Hayashida step, we backsway by pressing S then A, a simple motion in itself, nothing difficult there, and then we cancel that backsway by stepping into the background. You cannot Hayashida step going into the foreground, only into the background. So in this case, we backsway and then we step left. It's a very simple motion that you can do. As you can see, doesn't require much in terms of execution, and as you get more comfortable, you will get better at your Hayashida step game, allowing you to backsway and evade certain moves. And once you get an opportunity to whiff punish, or you feel like you're far enough, you can then press forward, or you can whiff punish accordingly. It's a very good movement based option, and I believe with 2 directional inputs it's very easy to execute. But like I said, the problem with using both your hands as your directions is the distance your right hand has from your second directional input back to your attack buttons. This slows down your retaliation as you are moving, as your hand still has to switch back down from your left analog stick, in essence, back to your attack buttons. So in itself, I believe that is the only flaw in this technique, but it is very good to use. And as a Nina player, Hayashida steps, why not? Now this is one of the more trickier inputs to achieve in terms of movement based options, and to be honest with you, there's not much of a shortcut, but I'm here to show you the most efficient way I believe you can practice doing Lay's half step. In this case, you have to be aware of 2 things. Firstly, 3 plus 4 takes you into your stance. By default it's snake, and back 3 plus 4 is your back turn. So in the case of a half step, we're trying to back turn and then backdash the back turn. That cancel will give you a very good chunk of distance from your opponent, and it's a very good technique to know. But before we even go far, we have to consider one thing: your comfortability backdashing, not necessarily very fast, but in conjunction to using another move. But before we even get to the advanced way of doing it, we have to understand that when you are back turned, if you press down back, you are able to crouch back into normal position. And as you can see, you would have gained a large chunk of distance, and you can use this as a way to practice the fundamentals or the basics of doing a half step. And as you get better, of which to be honest I'm out of practice, you wouldn't really want to see the entirety of the back turn animation. Instead, you'd want to backdash as soon as the animation begins. But most often than not, you do not want to press 3 plus 4 at the same time. This is the perfect way to get it wrong, because you'll be trying to half step and you end up getting a stance. In this case, we'd like to go 4-3 and back, and you'll still get a back turn stance. So roll it from 3 to 4 and back, and then do the second back input. It's very difficult, I'll try my best, but hopefully you'll get to see what I mean. Okay. Much better. And in essence, the better you become, the faster your half step will be. But as you can see, the distance I'm gaining on my opponent is very good. About 3.5 half steps and we're already full screen. The opponent has to then guess what to do in terms of approach, and Lay is in a position where he can defend in a much better position as compared to before. Finally, in this last segment of the movement, we're dealing with Dragunov, something I would like to call a snake dash. I don't know if it's the actual snake dash, but I mean, it looks weird, so I'm sure it has some form of use at some point. Some pro player at some point will find a way to utilize Dragunov's sway dash movement. And in this case, similar to the Hayashida step, we are doing Dragunov's snake dash, as I would like to call it. Don't know what its official name is. And we are then gonna cancel that sway with a side step to the left. If you're on the 2P side, that's a side step to their right, but it's still up on the direction. As you can see, if I do it slowly, he sways and steps similar to a very slow Hayashida step. So looking at it from a 3D plane, it's quite possible to go under some high and still manage to step during that same situation or encounter. Very unlikely, but it's a very possible thing. In this case, we're going to be using S and D. That's down and forward to sway, and then we're going to use 6 to sidestep. Now, the faster you go, the sway disappears as you are able to cancel into a sidestep immediately upon executing the sway. So you are able to achieve a very fast sidestep. The utility of this, even I'm not too sure of, but I mean, at some point you would like to sidestep an opponent to the left and you get something like this. Get a very fast sidestep. The opponent has to be careful, of course, how to retaliate, and homing moves may get you, but it's a very good something to put into Dragunov's arsenal as a Dragunov player. Most often than not, people see you sway, maybe they'll see you sway and want to go low, maybe they'll see you sway and want to go mid, and in some cases you may utilize this as an empty cancel of that sway, where you wanted to go in, but you realized that the opponent was going to counter hit you, the opponent was trying to retaliate in some way, or the opponent was stepping in the opposite direction, which could make you whiff your subsequent attack, and then you can immediately cancel that sway. The opponent misses or the opponent steps and you're back in neutral, both of you technically safe, and you with the ability to block. So in essence, though this may not be as effective as a stepping mechanic, as you are still able to get hit by a homing move, you are able to make yourself safe from a sway and immediately block. And that way the opponent will never actually know. Most often than not, the opponent won't even really see the sway and you're already holding back and you're safe again. And I'm sure since in Tekken you are able to cancel various movements into each other, you could potentially sway, hold up and block, and potentially continue your backdashing sequence, or you can sway, step, block, and sway again. When you see what the opponent is doing, you can sway, step, and block and go in and slide their attack. There's so many options you could do just being able to cancel a movement option such as Dragunov's Snake Dash. And that, I guess that would be it for now. Those are the 3 movement options that I really wanted to showcase, as I've once upon a time used all 3 of these characters, and sadly I didn't have much resources to learn how to do and use these techniques.